but in your section about water fasting, can you share with us what is the right type of water to be, basically you should be doing that every day is the right type of water, but we all try in different types of water where, bottled water, filtered, spring water, uh, alkaline water.
Mm.
Can you give us some direction of what's the right water to actually have, and especially when you're going to start a water fast?
Absolutely. So this is perfect. It goes right back to what we were talking about when we talk about viewing our body holistically.
Yeah.
The key to relearning, we have to unlearn and then relearn. The key for me was looking at nature. So I studied water for months on end. I love water. That's, anybody who follows me, you know that. I love water. And I really just looked at what nature was doing with water. So um, I like to incorporate information I've learned outside of like health and wellness into my health and wellness journey. So for example, I grew up in a Christian background, and I did study the Bible. So, I'm familiar with different passages, and I started thinking about like in Genesis, how the Bible says that God separated the waters from the waters. And I was just like, okay, so and I'm researching, I'm like, there's a high and a low water. So there's like deep waters and then there's like high waters. And then I started thinking about like the life cycle of water, as I looked at nature. And I'm like, all the water that's here today has always been here. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that water goes through this cycle, it cleanses itself. So I really started to come to the understanding that the water was distilling itself. And that was like its way of reformatting or processing, or you know what I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
purifying. And I was listening to all these people talk about spring water and alkaline water, and there's a lot of
Right.
pitfalls that come along with that. But I was just like, what is distilled water? Like, what actually is distilled water? And then I started to understand distilled water is just a very mechanical term for saying pure water. And so
Mm-hmm.
if we were to replace the word distilled with pure, and you would start saying, well, what's the best water to drink? Most people would probably think pure water, right?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
sounds good. That makes sense. And so I wanted to understand why so many people were promoting like spring water and alkaline
Mm-hmm.
water and things like that. And what I essentially once again went back to nature. Well, if you think about the life cycle of water, depending on where you're collecting your water from, let's just say it comes from a cloud, hits the side of a mountaintop, and then tumbles down the mountain. And as it tumbles down the mountain, it makes this kind of S curve, like a snake, and it's picking up minerals, and it's coming in contact with all of this material. And so I said, oh, that's why everybody is saying that you want to get spring water, because it's got all the minerals and stuff in it. But as I started researching deeper, I started to understand that water is a living organism. It is not just an inanimate object. Water has memory. It's very sensitive to frequency. It,
Yeah.
it's sensitive in general. And the water that you get from nature has to be consumed in nature. Like, just like most things, if you pluck a piece of fruit off the tree, you're supposed to eat it within minutes, because it loses a ton of its nutritional value over the span of 10 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever the case may be. Water is the exact same way. So when you're extracting water from that natural resource, and then you're bottling it or you're filtering it or you're putting it through a utility system, the water is completely dead and it becomes toxic. And
Mm-hmm.
so with keeping all of that in mind, I said, well, we most of us don't live near bodies of water, natural bodies of water, because
True.
we've built these cities and these infrastructures. So what's the in our situation, being as realistic as possible, what's the best water to drink? Because if you drink spring water, or if you put things in your water and the water is dead, it does not mesh with those minerals and things the same that it would in nature. It's just a different product. So I said, well, if we just do distilled water, which is pure water, at least we don't have to worry about that aspect of it. And then using pure water as a base, you can then add whatever it is that you want to it, if that's your choice. And so I decided to add sunlight to my water.
Uh-huh.
That was when I was researching alkalizing water and alkaline water. I did an experiment where I put a clear glass jar of water outside, and I had a pH tester, and I would just test the pH of the water. And what I found was, over a period of days, the sun was alkalizing the water and making it more healthy. It was making it, pulling out any, inorganic materials that were left behind from the distillation process. So it tastes better. And it was also bringing the water back to life, which is the biggest argument against distilled water, is that it's dead. That's what people say, it's dead. Mm. But the sunlight was bringing it back to life. And there was I don't even know, just like stuff was able to grow in the water. So yeah, that's the right type of water to drink, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I years ago, maybe about 7-8 years ago, I was introduced to a master herbalist in Los Angeles, and he was the first person that brought up distilled water, that's what we should be drinking. And so you're saying exactly what he is saying. And for someone that, grew his own food and everything else.